I always like
and mute ourselves.
Yes. So everybody's muted since Holley's recording, so we don't have any background noise. Well, welcome everybody. I hope that you get as excited about this program after you listen to what it is, as we all have been at Reset. I'm excited to be involved and partner with the Circular Design Project, which is really going to make its way across our counties, our bioregion. So welcome and enjoy the program, the learning experience. And now I'll turn it over to Holley.
Well, thanks, Linda. Linda is our president, and also with us is Gary Robbins, who's our vice president, and I'm the secretary. The three of us are our executive committee. I also see that both Joan Marshall and Ensign Cowell are here, and we are so honored to have them on our advisory board. So thank you all so much for attending this exciting launch of the JustLearn Circular Design Challenge. First, a little bit about what the Southwest Florida Reset Center is, in case you don't know us yet. We're a non-profit organization, a 501c3. We incorporated a year and a half ago. So we are still a baby. But our aim is to mitigate and reverse the effects of global warming brought on by greenhouse gas emissions and other human activities. And our focus is on the Southwest Florida bioregion. And we make our home where many of us on this call are today, at the Unitarian Universalist Congregation of Fort Myers. We have 12.5 acres here where we're participating and growing a lot of food for food pantries. Good. So we could take that slide down now. So our name is an acronym for Restorative, Ecological, Social, Economic, and Transformational Education. And we're here to initiate and also support others, bringing together organizations, groups, individuals, offering educational opportunities, as well as the facilities here to come together with us to specifically address the root causes of harmful environmental policies and practices. So I just want to say we recently had Eric Tonesmeyer, a permaculture guru who's written many books and affected many people here in Southwest Florida. We had a great conversation with him a few weeks ago. And at the end of the conversation, we asked him, what are the most important things that we can do here in Southwest Florida in this climate crisis, whether it's to adapt or even draw down carbon? Because he was part of Project Drawdown with Paul Hawken. And he had a simple answer for all of us here in Southwest Florida: plant more trees. And his second one was to reduce food waste, which maybe we'll do a whole program on that at some point. I first learned about JustLearn and the Silvi software late in the summer. And then for my birthday, Djimo and my friend Susan Mills here came by here, and they brought me 2 beautiful fruit trees for my birthday. And so that started me and really wanting to make this tree initiative happen, to take care of those trees and track the life of them. So that was a great birthday gift. I feel like this whole new initiative is my birthday gift as I enter my 70th year. So before we move on, just a few housekeeping things. I see that you're all muted, and that's really great. I will be letting people in that come in late if they do. And if they become unmuted or disturbed, I will mute you. I will do that. We plan for about an hour and a half, 90 minutes for this presentation. If you have questions that pop up during the presentation, please feel free to put them in the chat right away. And we will try to answer them as best we can. So just one more thing. Yesterday, Susan and I went to visit one of our advisors, the inimitable Bill Hammond. And Bill Hammond is on our advisory board. And he also is very excited about this project, also being at the Calusa Nature Center and helping Reset to get JustLearn off the ground in Lee County. So here's Bill.
Good afternoon. My name is Bill Hammond. I've been in Lee County now for more than 60 years and came down here and fascinated with the natural systems that Southwest Florida has. And I'm a member of the RESET group. We're working to help figure out how we slow down the human contribution to global warming and sea level rise. I was an FGCU faculty emeritus and also the founder of Calusa Nature Center and Planetarium. To see this idea of a circular design research project initiative, especially with young people involved. My whole career has been engaging young people in science research and political action. You've changed things once you get involved. So these trees behind me, they're all hooked together. And most people think each tree is individual, but every tree shares its roots and its resources with the others. Take a look next time you're out walking around the garden or anything, and look at the plants. They respect each other to the point where no two leaves even touch each other unless somebody messes with them or they're in the wind. So, how do we look and learn? Those things I just told you about, we didn't know about 20 years ago. It's the research in those fields that now let us know that it's the chemicals that trees give off that stimulate serotonin in our bodies that increase our health, because people have been interacting with trees for 4 million years, So we're just learning all these things, and you have a chance by participating in a program like this to be able to do some research right here in Lee County and Southwest Florida, and pick a tree. Pick a bug, pick something out that you have a curiosity about, and then go see the first step in doing research is do your homework. So you can ask little kids about what they think about it, or you can go find an expert in the community. Look in the news press, look in the books, go to the university, and find out what somebody there who people will tell you is probably the one that knows the most about it. Now you have a chance to get to know more than they do about it, if you dig in your research. So at Calusa Nature Center, we're willing to help all we can with anybody who wants to get resources or get advice there. And all through the community at FGCU, there are people that are willing to help you out. So the first step is just get out there and figure out something that you have a question about that involves trees. And this idea of a cycle is, a lot of people wear a wristwatch or have a digital watch, and it goes from 1 to 12, and then it starts over again. But a biological clock never stops. It just keeps going round and round. And that's the circular design. You ask a question, you find the answers, and I guarantee you, when you find those answers, you're going to have 10 more questions. And that's how science works.
Well, thank you, Bill Hammond. He's such a great mentor to all of us. Before we get started, I just want to very briefly introduce you to my new best friend, Susan Mills, who's president of JustLearn. Susan, I'm going to spotlight you for our viewers and recording. There you go. Okay.
Okay, well, thank you, Holley. Just reflecting back on being in Bill's presence, Holley and I went out to his home yesterday afternoon and sat in a rocking chair and mused about the beautiful weather and the magnificent garden that he has full of rare species. And I thought, what a jewel, what a treasure the Fort Myers and Lee County area has in this beautiful, beautiful man, Bill Hammond. So full applause to him. And the fact that we met him through RESET, through Holley, through Ensign, through Gary, I guess in the fall when we started this, and he was the first one to jump up and say, wow, let's do this. So JustLearn is in awe and in deep appreciation of the work and presence of Bill Hammond in this community and behind our project. So that's a little ad lib tribute to Bill. But for my official part of the program today, I teamed up with Djimo about a little over a year ago, and came in as the president, and he's the founder CEO of JustLearn. And it's been just a magnificent journey of moving through a deep and rich and well-established program in the school systems, and then out into the community. I'm an avid birder. I've been doing citizen science through Audubon and Christmas bird counts and all of that for really quite a long time. So the natural movement for me in part of JustLearn was to move this into the community. We talked about how that might work. You know, communities don't need the same kinds of tools and resources and programs that a classroom does, but they do need the same understanding of nature's interconnections. When something goes awry, you have things like red tide, you have out of balance consequences, and people throw their hands up and say, somebody do something. So the initial and perhaps the long-term vision of what we're talking about here, the circular design challenges, that somebody is us, and it starts with the kids. They're inheriting this world, and we want to make them as prepared as they can be. We took this idea of how to link the formal classroom conceptual learning about circular systems, natural systems, into the community, and thought we had some ideas, and we threw it out as a model. Djimo and I were privileged to be part of the Buckminster Fuller 2021 Space Camp cohort, where we learned from teachers like Eric Tonesmeyer, Vandana Shiva, Alan Savory. I mean, it was just a stunning lineup of people. And then we had our own working groups. And so what you're about to see here, it certainly started with us, but it was enriched and informed by the work that we had at Buckminster Fuller Institute last fall. One of the things that struck me so deeply was when Vandana Shiva said, a living democracy grows like a tree from the bottom up. And we look at the major global initiatives, the COP conferences, the corporate pledges, the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, and these are all wonderful, and they give us a roadmap to pursue. But the power, and as expressed to us through Dr. Shiva, is with us. It's with us on the ground. And the intention here, and it's my belief that a grassroots engagement movement can shift a community when everyday citizens care and get curious about what's around them, and then they act to form solutions as citizen scientists. So that's the intention here, is to turn all of us into a relationship with the world around us so that we understand it, we have visions for it, and we can do something to observe, correct, and inspire or encourage the health of our world. The Circular Design Challenge is a composite of 4 categories of capabilities. We start with themes. These are circular activities, and the one that we're starting with here in Lee County is the theme of trees. But you can't talk about trees if you don't talk about soil and pollinators and water systems and composting and how much energy get used and what does a biosystem look like, a food system. You know, if a tree stands alone, 2 trees are better, 3 trees are better than that, and 1,000,000 trees are better than all of those. So it's in context, nothing stands alone. The second thing is that we are leaving this planet to a world where almost 30% of the people on the globe now are between 15 and 20 years old. They are what's called technical natives. They understand information of things and smartphones and data and games and all the kinds of sophisticated, and they say easy to use, capabilities of our computers and our smartphones that simply make my head spin. So you take those things and you take those capabilities, you match them with tools, and this is to a large extent the tools that have come out of our experience, our classroom tools, which are the laboratories like PlanetBox, but it doesn't have to be PlanetBox. It can be any kind of study environment that is in a classroom, an aquarium, a worm bed, an ant farm. Then you find capabilities and structured methodologies to work with those laboratories to make experiments, to explore curiosity. If I put more light on it, and what happens to whatever is being cared for, if I put less light, if I change the pH of the water, all of those are things that can happen in a classroom lab station. Much easier to do it in a little, say, 12 by 12 aquarium or PlanetBox than it is in a forest. And then the human capability comes in. This is where the teacher is so important. They're teaching logic, they're teaching systems, they're teaching models, they're teaching, in a sense, empowerment. How can you intervene? Now that you've learned that this kind of light reacts with that plant more effectively than that kind of light, as Bill Hammond says, that's going to open up 10 more questions. So the teacher has, or the expert or the leader or the champion has that privileged role of guiding the work of the challenge teams in directions that help them become more and more curious. And then, of course, the part that is the underpinning of the entire circular design challenge is the linking and bridging of the classroom experiences with the community experiences, with all the resources that are in an area like their nature centers, like their businesses, like their volunteer groups. So when we started, and again, credit and thanks so much to Reset, I knocked on their door and I said, I think that we can bring 6, 8, 10 different kinds of organizations together to work on a single project. And they said, well, not sure, but why don't we try? Well, here we are today. This is just a little map of the area. We've got, starting from the top here with Dunbar High School, we've got high school kids working on it. And you're going to hear more about this when Djimo talks. We've got the Nature Center, which is a city jewel or a regional jewel. We've got the Reset Center group, which they're connected to everybody who is interested in nature, from permaculture to social justice on water and everything else. We've got the Food Forest, which is a student-led initiative at FGCU, and all the excitement and learning that goes on there. We've got businesses. We are so proud to have as our partner Natives of Corkscrew, which is dedicated to growing and distributing Florida natives. And then most importantly, over to the left here on our graphic, we've got Future Forestry, and that's Russ Ringland. And you're going to hear about him later on this presentation. So what these colorful icons represent is the kids, the community who goes out for a day to the Calusa Nature Center, to the conversations that happened in the Reset Community Garden and behind the Reset closed doors of their board meetings of how can we make this region better, to the curriculum and the assignments that happened at FGCU, to the excitement of the people at Natives of Corkscrew and saying, how can we be involved? We're part of that. We're part of this value chain. And then Russ, who actually takes all that stuff and puts those trees in the ground, as he's done for many, many years, and moves beyond concept and theory into, not only feet on the ground, but trees in the ground. So that is a little bit about the design of the circular design challenge. I'm going to transition here to introduce our newest employee at JustLearn, and we are so delighted to have Dylan Eagleston with us. You're going to hear from Dylan a little bit about this, my kudos go to Dylan. He was our hero of the day. I got a call about 12:30, 1 o'clock this afternoon from our wonderful teacher, Jennifer Giles at Dunbar High. And she says, I'm sick. I've been sick for 2 days. I can't do it. And so we sent her back home with hot tea and under covers, and said, I called up Dylan and I said, how quick can you be here? I need you to learn a presentation. I need you to give it publicly in 2 hours. And you will see for yourself what a remarkable addition to not only us, but to all of you all. Dylan will be the Lee County representative for the Circular Design Challenge. So all of you who form teams and have questions, you're going to see Dylan over and over and over again. So with that, maybe we can transfer over to Dylan.
Thank you kindly. Well, greetings everyone. As Susan just said, I'm Dylan Eggleston. I am currently also working at FGCU Food Forest, where I am a student, I'm a coordinator for student volunteers. And I have been very dedicated to getting to this work study grant, which I currently have. And I am just really excited to see how we can be world shapers and reconnect our bioregion with our cities, trying to really connect that once again. And I think that this whole JustLearn format is a perfect way to, as a permaculturist, see it shape itself into a different sort of role in a more circular whole cities approach. So Djimo could probably start these slides as we start going over some of what we've already done at Dunbar High. So why get involved? Students need to have knowledge of their local environment so that they are able to set up and do their part to maintain it. Students are also lacking a real look at what science is. Biology, environmental science, physics, chemistry, etc. These classes are more book-oriented and less getting hands dirty. This project allows my students to follow the full process, and with the end result being able to say they've helped this plant, tree, and their community. So what that does is it really gets that connection once again, where they're able to really interact and see what they may have done wrong. And also it allows for a new form of social connection. While they're making connections, while they're engaging with these things, it really gets their mind working. And through maybe, for instance, Miss Giles, she is a biologist, while the other young lady there was an environmentalist. So say you have two students both interested in very similar things, that is what allows them to sort of both see, well, I don't know, I think the snail's going to eat the algae. And then the other person might think, oh, I think that the microbes might eat the algae. So it gives them something to really visualize these things with. Now, this is an after school program, so it's definitely great for AP students and people looking to really have more they can write about and that sort of thing. So I'll just read over this slide. This was offered as after school project amongst my students involved in this project. I can't see, there we go. The group involved in this project are researching, designing, and running this project. They will collect data, research about water and soil quality, and determine the best processes for germinating and growing the trees. There's also another group of students involved who help maintain an outdoor garden. They will also be involved in the growth of these trees once placed outside. So that's actually the app where Djimo will explain a little bit more about how that works in the slides to come. So that's Silvi, actually, is what it's called. So what's happening? These involved in the starting part of the project have been researching native Florida trees, as well as looking into growing requirements for plants in general and trees specifically. For their project, they have chosen to look at the impacts of color, of light, to see what impact it can play on the growth of rates. They will be designing the procedure, running the project, collecting data. This project is fully student-led with little teacher intervention. So a quick note on like how that pertains to kind of my journey is a correlation that I had about light many years ago when I got the opportunity to go to Colorado. I saw high altitude plants liking warm light and creating antioxidants that were only at high levels. I also saw that with spirulina, which is a type of algae that fish can eat. So that branches into phycology, which is the study of algae, which is, everybody knows, Florida is one of the biggest things is the threat of red algae blooms. So I had also the opportunity to be at Vesta Research Center last semester where we were doing sea grape leaf wood burning signage to like see what the public opinion was and ask beachgoers what they think of algae blooms. And that was also very interesting. So we have resources, PlanetBox, partnership, seed trays, seeds, biodegradable pots, and saplings, which is definitely going to be the main source of what they'll be working with. So the benefits to this is students learn about the important ecosystem services that water systems and trees provide. They gain a tie to their community. Being able to say that they helped grow trees are then placed around Lee County. So they have a connection to these trees. And oftentimes as earthlings, we don't see our roots, they're not there. But when we work with trees, especially, it touched my heart that we're working with Calusa because I was actually a Montessori teacher for a year over at Calusa. And I always saw these kids amazed, astonished when they would literally see a banana tree grow taller than them in a matter of 6 months. It's just incredible seeing that. And the disconnect there, I feel like we could really reclaim that and reform that kind of symbiosis with nature where we're really propelling a lot of the good work out there. So to gain experience in the real scientific project, which can short term aid them in their classes, long term help them with career choices. See what they're really getting into. So here we go.
Holley, you want to introduce Russ?
Well, Russ Ringland is a name that is getting to be very well known in Lee County and in our bioregion. And he now has an organization called Future Forestry. And he has done an amazing job motivating people, kids, families, faith-based groups to plant trees in Lee County. And I don't think he needs a lot more introduction. You see that line on the map there? That's full of trees that he has facilitated being planted along there. So I've been wanting to get to know Russ much more myself. That's the best introduction I can give to you, Russ, is that we want to know you better. We want to support Future Forestry, and we want to partner in planting trees because we think that's going to draw down the most carbon and bring our communities together at the same time. So here's Russ.
Thank you, Holley. Future Forestry is a nonprofit with a mission to plant trees and to teach people how to plant trees. So it's pretty simple. I've been lucky, to find my mission in the middle of my life rather than at the end or in the beginning when I couldn't do much about it. We came to forestry from a couple different directions. I have a light skin, so I get burned very easily by the sun. I also worked in construction for a long time, learned about sustainability, building science, and these things all kind of come together with carbon. And how do you deal with carbon? From my position in Southwest Florida, the one thing that I can do quite easily is plant trees. And so from 2004 onward, we planted thousands and thousands of trees. Our main location is on Veterans Parkway in Cape Coral. Cape Coral is a community that was stripped of most of its trees when it was developed. So when we put trees back, we make a huge difference going from no canopy to mostly, a dense canopy where we plant. Future forestry, in our mission, we get kids to help plant trees quite often. We work with Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts, 4-H clubs. The Key Club is part of Kiwanis, and they're from the high schools. They do a great job. And so then we have tons of different adult volunteers. We have some people that have moved away years ago, still send checks, once or twice a year to help with this mission. So I was happy to hear from Susan and Holley, and to hear about the design challenge, because one central thing in any environmental condition is what's happening with the ground, what's happening with the soil. And it's really tough to improve soil, but you can't do it without trees. It's something that is really tangible. We have a nonprofit. There are a lot of great people and a lot of great causes, people with good hearts and minds, and they do good work every day, but it's hard to see the tangible effects day after day. Whereas, where we plant trees, they start out small, they continue to grow over the years. So our work pays dividends for a long time. One of the cool things about the kids planting trees is that they might just work for a couple hours, but they make a difference in their community for a long time. And they see it because it's along the highway. They see the work they did and that their efforts actually change the community. And that's a really important lesson. It helps them have the connection with their community, their hometown, where they're from a lot of times. So yeah, I'm very thankful for all the help that I've received. Look forward to working more with the design challenge. We have a great platform for trees to come from schools and from the nurseries. So I want to thank everybody for including us. That's it.
Thank
Awesome.
you,
I
Russ.
really encourage everybody to check out Russ's website. It's full of information, and it makes it really easy for you to get involved and to plant trees. I planted a tree January 1st, and I encourage everybody else to plant as many trees as possible.
Okay, thank you very much, Russ. Appreciate it. I'm Gary Robbins, and on the board of Reset Center, and just thrilled to have this relationship blossoming with JustLearn and Circular Design Challenge. And as Russ is planting trees, I want to mention that I remember my younger brother. I lived in Southwest Wisconsin in my junior high school through college days, and he went out in the backyard and planted a couple spindly maple trees, and I thought, oh my goodness, and he was a budding forester at the time, but he just 3.5 foot spindly trees, and I thought, what are they going to do? And years later, I went back after having been out of the state for quite some time, and I was blown away by what those trees meant for that property. And they were just so gorgeous. And we had also planted some things along the outside edge of our property, and they had grown like crazy and had really defined the property. And they, at the same time, were providing all kinds of benefits as trees do, and for other animals, for soil retention and health and water, all kinds of benefits. But what we're talking about here is something that just Susan indicated. It's not just for this little, our bioregion here in Southwest Florida, but she's envisioning that with the work that we're doing already through Reset, and she is doing with other people, and we have relationship with folks up in St. Petersburg and Tampa as well, that we are going to transform the whole left coast. And so we have some vision for where we can go with this program. And every time I sit down and talk about this program, there are aspects of it that are just so wonderful to learn about. But one of the things that we have come up with that I think is really a fascinating thing is Mother's Day is coming up on the 8th of May. And it's interesting, you know, we celebrate Mother's Day, we give cut flowers, we send cards, but what if we did something have a little bit longer effect? And came up with the idea that what if we planted trees in honor or in memory of our mothers, and in honor of our great mother, Mother Earth, Pachamama, if you will, Gaia. How much better? And this ties in with what Bill Hammond had talked about in his tape session, and what we have learned from Bill. This area used to be covered with trees. And as it has been so-called developed, you know, trees get just torn to pieces and torn out. And many of the trees that are replaced are not native trees. And so they do not have the benefit for all of the things that trees can do in a native setting. And so it's really important that we do native trees. And so what I'm suggesting is that we in our programs and the contacts, your roots in the community, use those roots to contact people and talk about planting trees instead of or in addition to flowers that you get for your mom. And then with the program that we've got with the Circular Design Challenge and JustLearn, the software can literally track what's going on with a specific tree. It just blows my mind. But so you could purchase a tree, have it planted in honor of your mom, and follow it in the years ahead. So there are so many different ways that this can be a benefit to our community. And of course, planting trees gives you a lot more shade. If you can imagine, if we had 100,000 more trees in our area, what would that do? It would provide shade, it would provide homes for animals, it would provide resources for critters, and it would cool our community as well. Not to say anything. So what I would like to do is suggest that you contact Russ at Future Forestry, or contact us at Reset. And I think Holley's going to be putting the Reset contact information in the chat. And by contacting us, you can let us know what you would like to do. Would you like to have us plant a tree for you? Would you like to develop a program on the JustLearn Circular Design Challenge that revolves around trees? There are so many different ways to do that. So invite you to follow up with your interest and with the people that you have contact with to expand this into our community. So when we come back after however many years, we will we will be able to see incredible changes in our community. So I want to, oh, Holley, did you want to say a word?
Just a real quick word. I did put in our email address and also Future Forestry, but the last link I put in is actually a sign-up sheet. If you want to just click on it, it goes to our Google Drive. And so that's another way you can get in touch with us if you don't feel like emailing. If you're interested in tree planting, and then we'll find the support for you.
And whatever you get excited about, see if we can get it on in the software so you can follow it. I wish I could have done that with my brother's trees, but you know, here we are now at a totally different time. So what I'd like to do now is turn the program back to Djimo.
Thanks, Gary. I also love the idea of gifting sort of a living being, a living tree. Russ had shared a few thoughts with me a couple of weeks ago around complementary shrubs and wildflowers. And then when I was with Chris most recently at the Natives of Corkscrew, by the way, wonderful nursery focusing on indigenous species. Chris mentioned that they had successfully trialed kind of like a bouquet of flowers, except it's really a living tree with a small wildflower complementing species, and that they would, you know, that would stay on the counter, but would eventually make its way into the ground. And that is really a much more natural way of looking at multiple species coming together instead of just a traditional sort of tree canopy or artificial monocrop. But nonetheless, I did want to shout out to Natives of Corkscrew. They are most recent participants coming into the design challenge. And I think it's important to also start to understand how the participants can function as a team. I will be expanding on the idea of looking at trees as life cycles, almost like a supply chain. A tree has so many milestones to be met, and it's important to understand it, with that lens. But having a nursery now as a participant is quite critical, especially after understanding how important the maturing of saplings is. It's not just as simple as germinating a seed and putting it on the ground and expecting it to survive. But for now, I would like to elaborate a little bit more what JustLearn is and where it's coming from before, as far as what ultimately led to the Circular Design Challenge. And so just as a brief introduction here, we have worked with an ecosystem laboratory that we've designed and developed, which serves as a indoor science activity, mostly serving environmental science, but really suitable to all of K-12 STEM. In fact, we're calling it circular STEM. And we have some decent implementations in Tampa. We're in every public high school up there. And then we're also in multiple different counties in Florida. And nationally, we're serving close to 40,000 students. Over the last year, we've been developing the software to be able to support the management of the aquaponics system we've developed, PlanetBox. This is relevant for data collection, for tracking changes, for logging observations, and it's for PlanetBox specifically, things like water chemistry, pH, and ammonia, nitrite, quite technical biochemical phenomena, but nonetheless one that can be supplemented by tasks and alerts and really an autopilot of a system. And so what we are now doing with that is leveraging all the features and tools we've developed throughout our software. Some of those can be seen here. So we have a dashboard where multiple types of environments can be onboarded. Here are some of the shortcut icons to logging observations and interactions. And then all of this can be distributed across multiple students. And we now want to take that model and be able to distribute it outside the classroom as well, particularly in an effort to sort of accelerate citizen-led efforts. And in this case, for the circular design challenge, but with a huge focus on trees, as I'll talk a bit more in a second. And so to really understand how we're approaching trees, I guess it's important to kind of also understand what we've learned from building software and logic for life cycles from an environmental perspective. So aquaponics is actually quite sophisticated and complex. For one, you have multiple trophic levels. You have a water component, atmospheric component, a light component, even have a soil alternative component. So and for that reason, we actually call it PlanetBox, because it's really an environment where planetary cycles can be learned and can be understood and replicated. I would like to think of PlanetBox as a closed loop, a minimally viable ecosystem where, if done successfully, you arrive at a relatively stable state. But to get there, you do need to meet various milestones, such as inoculating bacteria in the beginning, feeding said bacteria, maintaining optimal pH and water chemistry, ultimately introducing the right types of fish at the right time before you can accumulate nutrients and then start germinating plants. And once all this is sort of balanced out, you do have a low maintenance ecosystem that for the most part is self-sustaining, with the exception of what you harvest and some of the inputs, such as for the fish. And so we're taking this logic and thinking and breaking it down into various stages for the trees, thinking all the way into research. I saw Carol asked a couple of questions around how to figure out what are the right trees for Florida or for this specific region. And that's an interesting question, and one that we have been quite focused on, but it should ultimately be a decentralized effort. And so it could very well be a topic for the science classroom to partake in, as far as understanding soil composition, climate patterns, and really what existing indigenous trees were present before deforestation, etc. But that research component is an important one, and I think it defines the earliest piece in the tree life cycle. But moving beyond research, germination, I think, is something that is already so utilized as an activity for learning anatomy and physiology of plants, happening in every science classroom out there. I did it. I'm sure all of you did it. We all really germinate, seedlings in tissue paper and hang them outside the window. But what if that activity can be paired or leveraged for the purpose of propagation? And this is where we now started thinking about providing resources for school environments to encourage them to become nurseries. We have hundreds of thousands, if not millions, of campuses around the country with really a lot of space. I think we have a lot more surface area in school ground than in nursery sites. So certainly there's enough space out there to scale up the propagation piece. And if that can start with schools, with educators and with students, perhaps it could also scale to some extent into homes. But it does need guidance, and it does need tracking and then verification. I will be demoing the software in just a second, but I did want to highlight this awkward stage between successfully germinating a plant or a tree and bringing that sapling to maturity, meaning ensuring a high survivability rate, which is not limited to the timing of the year, as Russ is able to know probably by instinct, in terms of rain and having enough a buffer to be able to withstand the planting event and the shock and establish its roots. But another important piece, one that I wasn't aware of, is trees are they grow slow, and sometimes taking a sapling to an optimal level of maturity can take multiple years, 2-3 years. And so often what happens is you germinate at scale with multiple propagation techniques, but then you do a couple of stages of repotting or transplanting those saplings still into pots before they make the way into the ground. And so this is going back to natives of Corkscrew, and why we're so excited to have a nursery as a partner, is because we want to now experiment an interesting model where if we could get schools to germinate hundreds of saplings that might not be mature yet, for example, but that could be traded with a nursery for more mature saplings. And let's say if we could turn 500 young saplings into 50 or 100 mature saplings, then I think we would do something really awesome for the students, which is to be able to, within one single year, expose the students or really engage the students at all the critical stages of the tree, all the way from research, germination, propagation, repotting, planting the tree. And I think those could go well with field trips and fun activities. But then also show up to these locations where existing trees are on the ground and where the said verification can happen. So that being said, just a little bit more of a demo of our website. Again, we're focusing on expanding our offering from aquaponics and from PlanetBox to the trees. We've been very focused on building map integrations, and we're deeply inspired by social media. Of course, we're mostly inspired by science, but we are looking to make science as accessible as, the Instagrams of the world and the TikToks. And so we're trying to develop as user-friendly process as possible, and one that really emphasizes community, following objects, being able to know what your friends and your peers are doing, receiving notifications for what they're doing. And I think that has a bit of a network effect. This is my last slide, but this does cover scanning happening right now. Well, not right now, this happened just a couple weeks ago at the Future Forestry site. And so we onboarded our first trees. This is the mobile version of our app. It still needs a little bit of work to make it prettier, but we've already shortlisted a few entry points that we want to record. We're thinking about deep tech here. We're thinking about implementing computer vision and AI to facilitate the inference of data around carbon capture, really because at some point, carbon credits could facilitate or encourage citizen participation here from an actual compensation model. So we're excited to work with Russ on that model. With that said, I'd be happy to elaborate on any of these techniques that we have, as well as some of our upcoming releases with the app and with the model. But before we wrap this up, I wanted to bring it back to Holley, who's working on an equally important topic within the Circular Design Challenge. Holley?
Sure. Took the spotlight off you. So I got really excited about making soil last year. We started an initiative in partnership with the Unitarian Universalist Congregation of Fort Myers to possibly install a food forest around our 67, I believe, community garden raised beds. And we didn't get buy-in yet to plant a lot of fruit trees here, but we did get buy-in to really help build the soil for our community gardens. So starting last June, I started building compost piles by a hot compost called the Berkeley method. It's an 18-day compost. And that picture up on the top left is permaculture design professor at FGCU, Alex Nikesh. And he and his students worked with me all summer. We made 4 of these composts, and I've kept track of everything we went in them, how long they turn, their temperatures, how we turn them. And then we finally decided to compare composts. So we bought this new little compost turner here, and we're using that. And the bucket you see is biochar. So this is an experiment we have going right now of inoculating the biochar with living compost and then putting that into some of our beds. And so it's my idea to create a composting team as well as that's part of circular design to do this. So we'll have to develop the software to make it happen, but I'm really excited about this. And that's all I have to say about that. I don't know why I don't see my face and I see Djimo's face, but this is me, Holley, talking. So I'm going to turn this over for a second to Susan Mills. And maybe we could take the screen down, but many thanks to, this is so great to be collaborating with nurseries, with people already like Russ planting trees, with Reset that wants to support it all to happen, and now JustLearn.
In school chains.
And the school district, starting with Dunbar High. So I think this has tremendous potential. And it's really what we were talking about with Bill Hammond the other day. And Reset's mission is to support and nurture our communities as we collaborate more around the climate crisis and the solutions that are real that we can really implement in Southwest Florida for a more regenerative and an awakened future. We are stronger together. And just like Bill Hammond said, we're all connected underground like the trees and their mycelium, supporting each other from underneath. So just like that mycelium that connects the trees to help them support and heal each other, let us become a forest. Those are my final words to us today. So I think I saw some great questions in the chat. I see Russ is on screen, so he must be unmuted. Do you have something you'd like to say, Russ?
I'd like to say something too.
And I also want Susan. Let's have Susan go first, and then you. Okay. Didn't
Always
mean.
better when I'm muted.
Yeah. Okay. Okay.
Thank you, Holley, for
What?
that. Thank you, Djimo, for the work. It is a challenge to bring people together to make them work and all move in the same direction. So I look forward to it, and I look forward to getting a lot more trees in the ground. Thank you.
It's
I think
unmuted.
you're muted.
Yeah.
Okay.
Holley has done a masterful job of keeping track of all the activity that's going on and the questions in the chat, as well as the sign-up sheet. Marcia, you asked the question that is most dear to my heart. Yes, 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 yes. And I don't have the chat exactly in front of me, but I believe it was something like, can these teams be sponsored? Is that, am I correcting? Am I interpreting? Do you want to ask your question out loud, Marcia, and let us answer it? Can you unmute yourself, Marcia?
There we go.
There you go.
So yeah, so I was asking about, because I actually did chat yesterday with Chris Stevens just over a different unrelated matter, and so I know him and we do things, we're connected in many ways, and so I was, but that was before you guys had sort of spoken. But my question is working and sponsoring a classroom to where I love the idea with Mother's Day coming up, and the kids, they want to get something for their mom, and not all of them have resources. And nor do we do a lot of the things that we used to do back in the day. I mean, we're no longer really making those crochet octopuses that we used to make, or taking the time to make a Mother's Day card, or the crafting like many of us, did when we were young. But I think that those things are important, and the kids need, and they want to give something. And then it's a perfect opportunity to send, I think, the right message, which is to build that responsibility with the kids, to have that emotional buy-in of, I am connected. I'm connected to my mom. I'm connected to the earth. I'm connected to the future. And then to, bring in that element of becoming a citizen science through that gesture, which they're totally into. I mean, they're so about the app on their phone, and sort of owning that with, this is where we are. We might not be making a crochet octopus for our mom anymore, but we're planting a tree, and we can track that tree, and we can report on the data going forward. I think that is brilliant. And it's really, it's uplifting that we're there, and that you guys have found a way to connect with the kids and make it real for them, and so that they can respond and buy in. I just love it. So I'm just asking, I'm thinking about, okay, how can we make this happen? How could we say, okay, we want to sponsor a classroom. I know Chris is all in from working with him on other projects.
Well, Marcia, Marcia, you get it. You know, you get
Yeah.
you get a gold star. Yes, the project that we have here in Lee County is the product of a sponsorship, and it doesn't take a lot of money, but it does take some money. And part of our vision is not only do we repair the world, but we also create career choices, career visions for these kids that discover that they, oh, I like being outside. I like, or I like fooling around with energy, or I wonder what it's like to have a question about a water system. So we see this, and every step along the way, whether it's the classroom or along the way, it takes some financial support. This is not a pitch. Please don't read it like that. But the sign up is, if you want to plant a tree, go plant a tree. If you would like to support somebody else, plant a tree. $5, $50, $100, every penny of it will be used for that team or that group. It doesn't have to be a classroom. As Jennifer found out, it was the after school club activity. There are clubs at FGCU. There are organizations like Reset that have projects of their own gardens. All of those can benefit from a little bit of fuel, financial fuel. And Reset is a 501c3. Our organization, called Just Foundation, is a registered 501c3. All of this work is very grateful for any kind of financial help. But then probably the third thing that is more in the hands of a person that wants to work with a group: start a challenge team. We've got a model that can incorporate up to 10 people. It can take a PlanetBox and go all the way from the classroom out to the outdoors. We can, we know what it costs to do that. And we can adapt it and design it towards the world that you're in, as long as it's around the topic of trees and the surrounding ecosystems that support trees. So can sponsorships come into play here? What if a socially responsible business in the Fort Myers area that wants to be carbon neutral put a stake in the ground, let them develop a circular design challenge? We can develop the tracking, the documentation of the work of that initiative through our software. We can tell them exactly how many people participate, how many hours, what kind of tree came into play. So we can give them full feedback. It's not just a drop in a vacant pond, but anybody that wants to be involved, yes, we want to make it happen for them to be involved. And then I saw another question by Carol Gorlick: how do we know what the native tree is? Well, that's part of us JustLearn and our partners putting people on the ground and helping you that are expert and informed, like Dylan is. Here in Florida, we expect to partner with IFAS,
Yes,
or
IFAS.
or with FGCU. We would love to see student interns be attached to each PlanetBox or each PlanetBox team. I mean, there's all kinds of ways to get the exact expertise that's needed by the team in the context of exactly where you are and what you want to do. So we're at the very, very beginning. This software couldn't be newer. It's brand new. But we're onto something. I can tell you that as I traveled around Lee County and talked to people, the excitement and the open doors that came back and the welcome that came back towards this idea was generous and immediate. This county is ready. This county wants to do it. And
Susan,
that's it.
if I may elaborate on a couple of these and perhaps address the questions. The questions Marcia asked are actually overlapped. In terms of sponsorship, I just wanted to bring up the notion that so many so much of a tree planting budget or a carbon offsetting budget is effectively unverified or gone to waste out there without the traceability mechanisms in place to guarantee the successful planting. I think what we're doing is creating that traceability, but we would be able to offer that that traceability and that planting to carbon offsetters, perhaps in the voluntary carbon market, and perhaps to local businesses who might want to know exactly where their trees go and by who they're planted by. That's one thing. The other thing is Marcia, you also asked about beyond carbon, sort of more on the climate resilience credits. And I think that's important to also consider, because even carbon is so new, it's an emerging marketplace. These are emerging credit systems that are actually still being formed. But there is so much value to be realized by true planetary restoration, a reviving of populations, sort of establishing biodiversity and carrying capacity in sensitive regions. And so with that, I think what we are positioned to do as a software is perhaps with some contracts in place, be able to operate in a promissory way where we will go after those carbon credits, but we might go after other types of credits. And ultimately, the beneficiaries of those credits are their stakeholders who participated in the tree planting life cycle. So I just wanted to cover that real briefly. I was asked not to dive deep into tokenomics and into blockchain, but I wanted to at least mention that it does offer a lot of the sort of trustless, as it's called, abilities to verify this data, to validate this data. And contrary to belief, there are blockchain solutions that are not as carbon intensive as the Bitcoins of the world, which of course are quite expensive. But there are blockchains that operate actually more efficiently than Visa payment system, which everybody uses. And so there's hope out there. Now there's technology and there's the ability to, take a supercomputer out of your pocket, connect it to the GPS, record a coordinate, take a photo, and upload that to the system, and the world would be able to trace that tree. So I hope I touched on some of your questions there. They're very relevant questions, and we are still looking. We're trying to figure out the model that could serve carbon offsetters, companies. As is, we're very grateful that we received sponsorship for this specific design challenge, but we also believe that this could live on top of the school system, particularly as a curriculum effort, not necessarily with any compensation, but with the outcome of having saplings produced, voluntary participation for the planting, and to benefit efforts like those of Russ, Ringland, and Chris. So yeah, thank you.
That's really great. We can just dive really deep into all of this. I noticed that Russ put something in the chat for future forestry, and that they have a foundation as well. So let me put the spotlight on us for a second. So Russ, are you able to put in the chat? I put in the link to your website, but if you want to put in a link to your foundation, if you have a link to put in the chat, feel free to do that. What we're going to do, I want to find out if we have any more questions that haven't been in the chat. We have a little bit more time. And then I'll just say this for now. When we do close and go off this Zoom, I will be sending it out to all of you so that we don't lose this precious information. Is there another question here?
Are there more questions from anybody in the group?
I really love it that someone put temperature lowering as well. One of the ways that we can really help in our neighborhoods that really are food deserts and have no trees in them, like in our affordable housing, is to buy and to donate and to plant trees, because providing shade as the temperatures rise on the planet is really, really important. So I'm glad whoever put that in there about shade trees, because this is
Well,
really important.
It's a form of social justice,
It
economic,
is.
environmental justice.
Holley, you want to say something about the recording and availability of it?
Sure. This recording, we will spiff it up a little bit, do a little editing on it. I can send it to you just as is, as soon as we get it downloaded, but it also will go on YouTube, on the Southwest Florida Reset Center YouTube. We'll put it on our website and also make it available to JustLearn and to Future Forestry to use for any future programming or reference, or let's see where we go from here. It's exciting to me.
And for
So-
everyone who has signed up on, and I think there's 2 or 3 people that have already signed up, we'll get back to you. We want to continue this conversation. This is, you're our people.
I think it's game on then,
Game on.
right? It's
Game-
really game on.
Game on.
I'm going to just put one last link in here, and that is,
Ask for comments.
for comments,
Yeah.
you go ahead and ask.
Well, I wanted to know if anybody has any feedback for us. This is our first time out in public. This is the kickoff of a very new idea, a very young company, a very fragile moment in our life, and we are very excited, but we're also imperfect. And we welcome your comments, either here together or behind doors. We think we're onto something, but we can't do it without you. And so let us know, feel free, if you want to comment right now, feel free to do so.
I have a quick announcement.
Oh, okay.
So we're really excited about this, but the Southwest Florida Reset Center was approached by our local Calusa chapter of the Sierra Club and Sierra Club National, as well as Citizens Climate Lobby. They want us to host our beloved Miccosukee wise woman, grandmother, and environmentalist Betty Osceola to come talk to us about drilling in Big Cypress. And so we're going to have an outdoor chat with Betty and a big bonfire afterwards on February 24th. It starts at 5 p.m. We have a big, beautiful outdoor amphitheater that faces our gardens where Betty will be talking. So that's a Thursday evening, February 24th. So we have put out that invitation on Facebook, and I will email information to all of you about it too. We have all your email addresses so we can follow up with you. And Silvi says right now, you're invited to have a table for your organization to be at that event. So thank you, Silvi. And what's our relationship with ECHO is a question. I could start to answer the question is, our garden manager also is an ECHO tour guide and an ECHO expert. Also a few other people that we're partnering with Cultivate Abundance. Used to work at ECHO, and we have a very close relationship with the leadership at ECHO and hope to continue to bring people on tours there. And we're inviting them to another big event we're doing on Earth Day to help us with the seed and plant and tropical tree exchange. So ECHO is an incredible resource for anybody who has not visited ECHO Farms in North Fort Myers. I highly recommend it. It is an experience that you will never forget.
And then Holley was speaking for Reset when she talked about that relationship. We've talked a little bit to ECHO, and we were very early in the stage. We are focused on education of school systems and forests and reforestation. Their mission is a little bit different. They're focused on supporting farmers and globally. They're aligned, but they're a little bit different right at this moment. So we expect to see each other and wave with great smiles and support along the way. But right now they're doing something and are well established and they know what they're doing and they've got it solved for their world. And we will continue to invite them back into ours.
And perhaps, Susan, just while we're here, Beth also asked about tree equity, and I think that might be a really relevant reason to reach out to ECHO again. And not to distract from the Circular Design Challenge here, but we're just as an announcement as well, we're working in Africa on a few new projects that connect school systems to reforestation. And specific to that region, unlike nursery sites that we have here, it might be that women subsistence farmers are the best sort of stakeholder for the maturing of saplings with sort of in-house nursery sites. So we're looking at sort of equality in Africa, and here in the US we have a couple of meetings coming up and this week for the possibility of directing some of these trees for affordable housing communities as well. So that I hope that will lead to a better implementation within our model to address canopy equity and tree equity.
And very much built into our financial model is this blockchain enabled tokenization capability, which has the ability to turn ecosystem services into financial gains for communities, and then have those communities share the value of those ecosystem services in a tangible monetary way. This is the new economy. Blockchain is here. It's the kids get it. The kids are 15 years old, 20 years old. They know smartphones. They know digital services. And that's the new economy. And the new economy they want is a world where the economy is attached to the environment and the social justice that they believe in. So you can't do one without the other. And that's it is wrapped into our vision and our model. We're working on it, but we don't have it to show to you today.
All right.
More questions? Okay, well, you can get our phone numbers, Holley's and mine, and you'll see them on in various places. Please don't hesitate to call and say, I think you're missing this point, or I loved what you said. Whatever it is you want to say, we want to hear it. And we want to stay kind of in your world. I'm dedicated, Djimo's dedicated, Dylan is local right here.
There he is. There's
Yeah.
Dylan there.
Yes, born and raised in Fort Myers.
Born and raised in Fort Myers. So we are at your service. We are humbly at your service. And maybe with that, I thank you for your time.
Yeah, thank you all very much. So I will send you all this recording if you would like it. Would you all like it? And are you okay if do I need to blind copy you, or shall you see each other's email addresses? You're okay if I just email you all, right? Okay, I'd like to ask permission about that. If you want our newsletter, I put it in the chat, the link.
So thanks to Reset. Thank you for having us.
You're welcome.
We're on to something.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I'm saving the chat
Thanks,
too for all our links. Okay.
Thank you, everyone. This was great.
Thank you.
So cool.
All right. One
Thank you.
love, says Dylan.